On the 23rd floor of a glass and steel skyscraper overlooking downtown Seattle, Noah Keller, the 39-year-old single dad and CEO of Synextech, sat hunched over a conference table, his jaw tight with stress. The air in the room was thick with tension, and the glossy whiteboard behind him bore the faint erasure marks of hours-long brainstorming gone awry. Around him sat some of the most brilliant engineers in North America and MIT grads, Stanford coders, AI architects flown in from London and Toronto. 15 of them, all brought together in the hopes of solving the bottleneck problem that was delaying Synextech's flagship AI product launch. The software and neural interface to revolutionize communication for people with speech disabilities was stalled at a core logic flaw. Every solution looped back into itself, like a snake eating its tail. Noah had offered a 6-figure bonus to whoever could fix it. Days passed, then a week. Nothing. Tension was high not just because of the money, but because the launch date was immovable lit, was tied to a fundraising gala for children with neurological conditions, an initiative inspired by Noah's own son, Caleb. Caleb was 6, full of wonder, and lived with a rare speech disorder that made words come in fragmented syllables. The AI was more than a project hit, it was a promise Noah had made to his son and to himself. As the engineers muttered theories and tapped frantically on keyboards, Noah stood up to refill his coffee and sighed. He barely noticed Maria, the nanny, as she came into the room, holding Caleb's hand. "Sorry, Mr. Keller," she said in her gentle accent. "Her root's from Mexico, but you asked me to bring Caleb in for a visit at noon." Noah blinked. He'd forgotten. Time was a blur lately. "Right, thanks," he said, kneeling to greet his son. Caleb smiled and reached for Noah's hand. "Can I draw?" Caleb asked, gesturing to the whiteboard. The engineers, clearly annoyed, tried to be polite as Noah helped his son up. Maria handed Caleb a marker and gave Noah an apologetic smile. "It'll only be a minute," she whispered. As Caleb drew what looked like a series of shapes and symbols, no one paid attention. Maria glanced at the algorithm notes on the owl's screen. "Excuse me," she said softly. Heads turned. She pointed. "Why is this feedback loop connected like this? Doesn't it contradict the conditional rule here?" One of the engineers scoffed. "It's a recursive call already optimized." "No," she said, stepping closer. "It's calling itself before it finishes, resolving the last input. You're stacking incomplete branches. That's why it crashes." She reached over the laptop and tapped a single line of code. "Try flipping the conditional. Move it outside the function, so it runs only if the last node is complete." Dead silence. A junior engineer typed it in out of curiosity. The screen blinked. Data processed. Output clear. The entire system snapped into harmony like a puzzle piece falling into place. Noah stared in disbelief. His engineers had spent 180 hours on that. Maria solved it in 30 seconds. "How did you?" he stammered. She blushed. "I studied logic. Design in college before I moved here. I didn't finish. I had to support my family." Her voice was quiet, almost embarrassed. "I still read, though. It helps me understand how Caleb thinks." The room was silent, not with condescension, but awe. Noah looked at her as if seeing her for the first time. Not just the kind-hearted woman who helped raise his son, but someone with insight and compassion that transcended job titles. The engineers clapped. A few laughed in disbelief. One offered her his chair, and Caleb. He grinned proudly, oblivious to the brilliance his nanny had just displayed. That night, as Noah sat alone in his office, he stared at the city lights, his mind racing. Maria had given him more than a solution, she'd given him perspective. The world didn't always need the loudest voices or the biggest degrees. Sometimes, it needed quiet compassion paired with deep understanding. He thought about all the overlooked people with talent, with heart. What if Synextech could become more than a tech company? What if it could be a place where unseen brilliance had a place to shine? 2 weeks later, Synextech made headlines not for the AI launch, which was a massive success and earned critical acclaim in tech and humanitarian circles alike, but for something far less expected, the announcement of a new initiative called Code with Heart. a global tech inclusion program that offered scholarships, mentorships, and employment opportunities to people, especially women, immigrants, caregivers, and those in non-traditional education paths who had skills but lacked opportunity. In every press release, in every media interview, Noah gave credit to the inspiration behind the movement. Maria, when asked why, replied simply, "Because she saw what no one else did, not just in the code, but in my son." At first, Maria resisted the spotlight. She didn't want fame, just wanted to be there for Caleb, to cook his favorite mole, to sing to him in Spanish when he had nightmares. But Noah insisted she be part of the advisory board. "You already teach Caleb how to be understood," he said. "Help us teach the world the same," she agreed, with humility. What no one knew was that Noah also paid for her to finish her degree, secretly setting up a trust fund for her family back home. The world noticed. The story of the nanny who solved the unsolvable traveled across continents, shared not for its novelty, but for its message. News anchors in London, Toronto, and New York highlighted her humility, her insight, her kindness. Social media lit up with hashtags like #CodeWithHeart and #MariaMoment. And more importantly, thousands of people began to believe they, too, had value. Mothers coding after bedtime, refugees in camps, teaching algorithms with chalk, retired teachers picking up Python for the first time. The emotional climax came during the gala event for children with speech disorders, Noah's long-awaited dream. Caleb took the stage, a small mic clipped to his shirt, and with the help of the AI system, delivered a message to a crowd of 500 donors and advocates. "Thank you for hearing me." The room dissolved into tears. Noah stood behind him, holding back sobs, and Maria watched from the side, a proud hand over her heart. That one moment encapsulated everything, the intersection of love, persistence, and unseen brilliance. Afterward, Noah made a surprise announcement on stage. Inspirational would dedicate 10% of all future revenue to inclusion initiatives. Because innovation without humanity, he said, is just noise. From there, the ripple effect grew. Tech firms across the US and Canada started reevaluating their hiring practices. A girl in the UK who had been coding in secret got a scholarship. A grandfather in Ohio built an app to help his nonverbal grandson communicate. Kindness, once seen as soft, became a strategy for change. And as for Maria, she still worked part-time. With Caleb, now pursuing a graduate degree in cognitive science, Noah never forced her into the corporate world. He respected her path, and they became more like family than employer and employee. Sometimes she still cooked for them on Sundays. Sometimes she still reminded Noah to slow down. And every time he looked at her, he remembered the moment when 15 engineers couldn't crack it, but one woman did. It's not just because she was smart, but because she cared. Because she saw Caleb. Because she saw what mattered. In a world racing toward the next big breakthrough, Maria reminded us all of something timeless. The greatest solutions often come from the most unexpected place, and the most powerful voices are the ones fueled by love. If this story touched your heart, share it. Let kindness trend. Let compassion code the future. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel for more stories that celebrate the humanity behind innovation. Because sometimes the people changing the world aren't the loudest. They're just the kindest.